Welcome to episode 144 of EDH Commander Challenge. I'm MTG McQuacks, and do we have a matchup for you tonight? In the last episode, we saw the victor of Francis vs Greg, and now it's time to see who will reign victorious in the other semi-final match. In the red corner, with their Krenko mob boss leading the charge and an opener of 4 mountains, Sparksmith, Goblin Artillery, and Goblin Wizard, we have Josh. And in the black and green corner, with Meren of Clan Nel Toth leading the other charge and an opener of Dryad Arbor, Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth, Fyndhorn Elves, Diligent Farmhand, Spore Frog, Caustic Caterpillar, and Abrupt Decay, we have Armen. And it seems our competitors are ready to go, so without further ado, fight!
For their first turns, Josh plays a mountain, while Armen plays Dryad Arbor. Josh plays a basic and casts Sparksmith. Armen plays Urborg and casts both Deathrite Shaman and Fyndhorn Elves. Josh plays a basic and casts Goblin Artillery. Then he pokes the Shaman with his Smith, taking 2 damage, before passing. Armen plays a Swamp and casts Diligent Farmhand, and passes. Josh plays a basic and casts Goblin Wizard. He then taps his artillery to shock the elves while taking 3 damage. In response, Armen sacks the farmhand to grab a forest into play tapped. Then Josh passes. Armen plays a forest and casts Abrupt Decay on the Sparksmith. Josh responds by using it on the Arbor to deal it 3 damage. Armen floats a mana off the Arbor and uses it to help cast Scavenging Ooze, and pays 1 green to exile the Smith from Josh's grave to gain a life, and place a +1/+1 counter on it before passing. Josh plays a basic and casts Soul Ring, which is then used for Ruby Medallion, followed by his general, Krenko, and passes. Armen, not ready to deal with a Goblin army, casts Maelstrom Pulse and takes out Krenko. Then he casts Spore Frog and passes. Josh plays a basic and recasts Krenko and passes. Armen casts his general, Meren of Clan Nel Toth, and passes. During his end step, Meren's trigger revives his Dryad Arbor from his graveyard to play. Then Josh uses artillery to kill the Spore Frog while taking 3 damage, which in turn gives Armen his first experience counter. Finally, Josh uses his Goblin Wizard to drop his Goblin King from his hand into play. Josh draws and passes. Armen plays Twilight Mire and casts Pernicious Deed, #ouch against mono red, and passes. During the end step, Meren reanimates the Spore Frog, while Josh uses his wizard to drop Ib Halfheart into play. Then he uses Krenko to make 5 Goblin tokens, and finally uses his artillery to kill the frog once more, giving Armen another experience counter. Josh plays a basic and moves into combat and attacks with all his Goblin tokens. Armen declares no blocks and takes 10 damage before Josh passes. Armen draws, smiles, and passes for obvious reasons. During the end step, Meren's trigger reanimates the farmhand, and Josh uses Krenko to make 10 more Goblin tokens. Josh moves into combat right away on his turn, and attacks with all 15 of his Goblin tokens. But obviously, Armen isn't having that this time. He first sacks his farmhand to grab a basic from his deck into play tapped. Then he gets his third experience counter as a result, and pops his Pernicious Deed for 4, which pretty much board wipes all non-land permanents in play. After playing his 8th basic land, in his second main phase, Josh once again recasts Krenko and passes. Armen plays a basic and recasts Meren, followed by Caustic Caterpillar, and passes. During his end step, Meren reanimates his Spore Frog once more. Josh draws and simply passes. Armen casts Fauna Shaman and passes, reanimating his Ooze with Meren during the end step, and Josh uses Krenko to make a Goblin token. Josh plays yet another basic, #land flooded, and passes. During his end step, Armen uses his Ooze to exile all 3 of Josh's goblins in his grave to gain 3 life and place 3 +1/+1 counters on it. For his turn, Armen discards Walking Ballista to his Shaman to add a creature from his deck to his hand, which turns out to be none other than Shriekmaw. Armen then evokes Shriekmaw to kill Krenko. In response, however, Josh makes 2 more Goblin tokens, and Armen gets another experience counter. Then Armen moves into combat and attacks Josh with his Ooze and Meren. Josh chooses not to block and takes 8 damage. Then Armen passes, and he reanimates his Shriekmaw to kill a Goblin token during the end step. Josh casts Mog War Marshal and gets another Goblin token, and passes. Armen plays Volrath's Stronghold and moves into combat, attacking with his Shriekmaw. Josh again doesn't block and takes 3 damage. Armen then passes, and during the end step, thanks to Meren's trigger, reanimates his farmhand once more. Josh doesn't pay the Echo for the Marshal and sacks it, getting another Goblin token. Then he casts Brightstone Ritual to help recast Krenko again, and pass. During the end step, Armen sacks his farmhand to net another basic from his deck into play tapped. Armen starts his turn off by going big and casting Massacre Worm, which kills off all of Josh's Goblin tokens. And between the life loss from the worm's effect, plus the combat phase incoming, is more than lethal damage to Josh, ending the game and sending Armen straight into the finals.
You win.
Josh did a great job considering he was heavily land flooded. I mean, how many games of EDH have you seen where the Krenko deck has double digits in basic lands in play? The Sparksmith was a star of the show, as because of it, Armen was struggling hard to keep any of his creatures in play. Speaking of which, Armen knows that Pernicious Deed was timely and beautiful, and without it, he may have very well lost to Josh early on, as at one point, Josh had 15 2/2 Goblin tokens in play. Agree with our picks? Let us know in the comments down below. Also, if you enjoy our content, consider becoming a patron. Give you access to some sweet bonuses while helping out the channel at the same time. We're so close to our goal of 2,000 guys, we're less than 400 subs away, so keep up the subscribes, we really appreciate it. And speaking of appreciation, special thanks goes out to MTG McQuacks, one of my favorite MTG YouTubers of all time, who on incredibly short notice was kind enough to open up this week's episode and the opening hands. There'll be a link to his YouTube channel, which has plenty of awesome goodness, including Quack-a-Pack, and of course my favorite, Sibling Rivalry. It's a lot of fun. Also, there'll be a link to his Twitter and to his Twitch. So check him out, he's awesome. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you're a fan of EDH gameplay and you like whether it be 1v1 or multiplayer and you want to be part of the ever-growing Commander Challenge family, just make sure you smash the subscribe button and notification bell down below. We do weekly videos. Don't forget as well to like, comment, share our videos, but most importantly, enjoy them. On behalf of all of our members here, I'm your host, BT. Feel free to check out all of the videos in the channel, join our game, it's now your turn. Cheers!